what you see on the screen is a true statement. I asked our management team right before the Christmas holidays, I said, let's just do something. What happens if Inktomi ceased to exist tomorrow? What if an earthquake knocks our 2 buildings into the bay and we no longer exist as a company? What will happen to the internet? We determined in a very conservative fashion that 1 out of 3 people in the world who use the internet today would not be able to get access to the information they are accustomed to getting to. So in essence, 1/3 of the internet would go dark on a global basis if Inktomi's technology was no longer there. And that's why we talk about this as the essential element to the internet. Now here's the way we look at the industry. The internet is basically comprised of 3 layers. You've got a hardware layer, which is where Cisco and 3Com and if you will, the general network hardware resides. Above that layer is the infrastructure software layer. Every computer architecture always has an infrastructure software layer. It is that layer that sets up the environment on top of the hardware that allows the applications to be built and function. And the application layer is the layer that is basically what Yahoo and AOL and all the .coms are. So if you will, that infrastructure layer is what creates the environment for the applications to exist and to perform. Now within that, there are actually 2 segments to the infrastructure software layer. One is the network aspect of infrastructure, those pieces of software and that software architecture that works with the network and allows the network to function efficiently. The second piece of infrastructure is that resides with the portal. A lot of that has to deal with content and the way content is managed and accessed through the applications. Now Inktomi today actually deals in both layers of the infrastructure. So we have both network products and portal service products. Now you may ask, well, why are you in both layers? Why don't you concentrate in one? Well, Intel and Microsoft share a very interesting common phenomena. They both control about 80% of a layer within their respective hardware and software architectures. Yet Microsoft has a much higher multiple and market valuation than Intel. And a good part of the reason for that is that Microsoft chose to participate in 2 layers rather than 1. That is, they chose to participate in both the operating system and in the application layer. We are on an avowed strategy that says we want to be dominant in both layers, and that we think that holds well for our investors. Now, when we first started out as a company, companies tended to be a customer of ours for one layer or the other, but not both. In the early days, companies like CBS and LookSmart and Financial Times and Forbes used our portal services, but they didn't use anything in the network product side of the infrastructure layer. Today, these companies that you see use both layers and are buying both sets of products. In fact, it has been my premise for a long time at Inktomi that we are building an integrated software architecture, that although we're operating in 2 layers, these products will all operate as a unified software architecture. And we clearly are seeing that now by some of the world's largest corporations. A couple of those companies you may not recognize. Mobilecom is the 2nd largest phone company in Germany and is the largest wireless provider. In fact, I just saw something this morning on CNBC where Mobilecom was picked as one of the hot companies to invest in Europe now. So Mobilecom has Inktomi's search engine, its directory engine, its shopping engine, and has deployed the traffic server network cache product throughout their network as well. And we see this happening more and more. Now, if you look at this picture, this is Inktomi today. From those humble beginnings of just a search engine, these are the products that Inktomi has. That core technology, that is the technology that came out of the Network of Workstations project at Berkeley. I will tell you this, it's a very interesting phenomena. That is in the public domain. And Inktomi is the only company that has picked it up and commercialized it. And the reason for that is a supercomputer core That requires parallel programming expertise in order to use it. We do not teach parallel programming in the United States anymore, except at the PhD level. So you have to assemble a team of PhDs in advanced computer science in order to work with that core technology. On top of that, we then build applications, of which today there are 4 applications. Think about the internet this way. We view the internet as doing 2 simple things. It stores data and it forwards data. Now the challenge is that that data store is a global distributed store. Web pages reside on millions of origin servers spread out through every country in the world. The portal services business is one about helping you understand where is the information I want. The network product side of the business is all about once I locate that information, once I have the cursor hovering over that document that I want to get it to my desktop instantly. And that is the architecture of Inktomi. Where is it? Get it to me fast. And that's what we do with this architecture. Today we own 40% of the search business around the world. That is, 40% of all the search queries generated on the internet are produced by Inktomi. That is, we fulfill the requirement for the query. Today, we serve about 3.4 billion queries every 90 days. And as you can see from this chart, we are increasing the number of search queries that we provide answers for at the rate of about 500 million new queries on top of the run rate every 90 days. Now, the interesting thing about this slide is we get paid every time you hit the search button. That is, our search contracts are all about transaction. You cannot come to Inktomi and say, I want to buy all I can eat for the next 2 years, give me a flat price. We go, no, the way you'll buy it is you'll guarantee us a minimum amount of revenue each year and you'll pay us per transaction as we deliver it to you. And that's why this chart becomes important. Now, the other thing is that when we were trying to raise money for this company back in 1996 and 97, and I had my tin cup out and went to 22 VC firms, they all said no. And they said, look, after the 4 or 5 portals that are out there today, your market's over with. There's no future potential for your search business. Today, as you can see, search is just getting going. And what's happened is we've migrated on the internet from the general portals such as a Yahoo or an AOL to where we now have vertical portals, and we're seeing more and more big brand name companies starting to use their brand to make their awareness known on the internet. My premise to you is all this advertising that was done by the .com companies on television before Christmas and into the new year was wasted money, because you and I aren't going to remember any of those small .com companies no matter how many ad dollars they throw at it. But we will remember American Express, and we will remember that CBS is doing something, and the other companies like Forbes and BT. And that's what we're seeing more and more. The international market is also taking off like a rocket right now. Europe is on fire with the internet. So is Asia. Some interesting sidelights, countries you don't even think of, like Korea, are huge users of the internet. Italy, which historically in Europe has not been one of the big technology companies, is a huge user of the internet with huge growth rates. Now, the other side of this is I am absolutely convinced, and I've been talking about this for 2 years now, that the software architecture of the internet will become the software architecture of the enterprise. The software architecture of the internet is coming back through the firewall and dictating the way corporations are going to organize and access their information. And we're starting to see the first signs of that in search. The example is the new mysap.com site is all powered by Inktomi. And this is a clear example of a corporation using their proprietary information for purposes of access by outside prospects and customers to gain knowledge about SAP. And this is clearly the way it's going. And we're now seeing a lot of interest in corporate portals for the purposes of accessing proprietary information. We had a high-profile loss. We've only had one company that we ever lost that we won, and this was Microsoft. This happened about 9 months ago. This was actually the result, and what I told the street is this was nothing but high-level horse trading between Eckhart Pfeiffer and Bill Gates. This had nothing to do with Inktomi. And basically what happened was Compaq bought DEC, and in doing so they got Alta Vista. They intended to spin Alta Vista out and make it public. Pfeiffer went to Gates and said, I need you to take Alta Vista as your search engine so that I've got a whole high-profile platform to spin this thing out and get some value on the street when I do the IPO. Gates in turn said, I need you to take my instant messaging software because AOL's beating my brains out and I can't get instant messaging out there anywhere, and AOL's crushing me. And that was the agreement they formed. The operational guys at Microsoft were really upset with both of the executive teams. When Pfeiffer left Compaq and when Alta Vista got sold to CMGI, the operating guys went to Ballmer and said, get Alta Vista out of here, let's get Inktomi back in here. This is what they had to say when they reintroduced Inktomi in December of this year. So what we've proven is that we have a lot of staying power. We did not go away from Microsoft. We stayed real close to them all the way through this process because we knew at the end the application was very powerful. Now let's go to the network product side of this. This is about 60% of our revenue today. We own 45% of the world market in network caching. We created the network cache market. Nobody even knew what a network cache was in 1996 when we sat down with AOL and UUNet and began designing this product. Today, companies like CacheFlow exist because of Inktomi, because we created the market. And more importantly, we pretty much dominate that market today. This architecture of Inktomi is an architecture of large numbers. It is one of massive scale. Today, AOL, which was one of the first companies to deploy the network cache product, takes 5 billion hits a day through the Inktomi network cache. When we started working with AOL, they were in the tank. I know a lot of you remember when you couldn't get anything but a busy signal at AOL. That's when they started deploying the network cache. The first year after it was fully deployed, a company called Inverse Technology, which is an independent third-party firm that evaluates all internet sites for speed of download, gave AOL the only A+ in the world for speed of response of a site. And they attributed it all back to the network cache system. When Case was giving Levin a tour of the AOL facility 2 weeks ago, they were in the AOL data center. If you haven't seen that, go see it sometime. It's a football field under roof. Levin asked Case, how do you handle all of the volume that goes through here? And one of the technicians that was at their elbow said, it's all done through caching. Caching has become the essential element of any massive network and any massive site today. The market for caching is big and it's fragmented into multiple sectors, and it's one that you don't want to look at and say there's only one sector to it. It starts with the access, the ISPs. The backbone players use network caching. We are now seeing the enterprise companies use caching and the hosting companies. And the hot new buzz is content distribution because of Akamai's IPO. But what you should look at is in that hosting column right there, every one of those companies with the exception of Mirror Image. So Digital Island, Sandpiper, Adaro, Exodus, and Cable and Wireless and Enron are all today, as we talk, building content distribution networks that are going to be equal or larger in size than Akamai's. And they're all being built on Inktomi technology. In fact, Enron's putting together a gangbuster content distribution network. So as you can see, this is a large market. It has multiple sectors to it. It has huge growth potential. Back to my theme about the software architecture of the internet is going to become the architecture of the enterprise. If you look over there under the enterprise, you can see that not only are the portal services apps going in, the network infrastructure software is now going in behind the firewall. And that's Merrill Lynch and Sun and Fidelity and Bristol Myers all deploying network cache, the same as it's deployed on the internet, only this is being deployed behind the firewall. Exodus is one of the major hosting companies. I know you probably know about them if you're familiar with this space at all. They have deployed the Inktomi network cache to speed up their hosted sites' traffic. And again, you'll see caching is showing up everywhere within the infrastructure. The other thing that we have been on an avowed mission about for the last 2 years is he who controls the edge of the network will in fact control the internet. Wherever the architecture at the edge is, that will be the architecture that will permeate all layers of the internet. And so we have been working diligently to be at the edges. Today, the Inktomi network cache resides at every cable head end in the at-home network. It is now being deployed in most of the major DSL networks. So the other thing that you can probably see is caching goes everywhere. It doesn't just go into a fiber network, it goes into broadband networks. It even is sitting at the head ends of the satellite downlinks coming off the satellite networks. So it's a very ubiquitous technology. These networks are big and they're very complex. This is just an example of one content distribution network and what it looks like. This happens to be Digital Islands. By the time Digital Island is done, where you see Inktomi logos up there, that represents where the Inktomi technology is going. By the time they're done, they will have over 5,000 Inktomi servers deployed in this network. And they typify what's happening today out there. Now, the other thing that we've done is Traffic Server is basically re-architecting the physical world of the internet. Prior to Traffic Server, the network cache, content only resided in one location on the internet, and that was the origin server. The example I like to give is if the movie industry operated that way, we all would have to fly to LA on Friday night to see a movie. And if you think LAX is a mess now, try getting there if that were the case in the movie industry. That's what was happening on the internet prior to network caching. Today, network caching allows regional distributed content libraries to exist all over the internet on a global basis. Now, the interesting thing about content is value. And all kinds of people want to now interact with all of these content libraries that are sitting in these caches. What we did is we opened up an API layer so that other software companies could write to the network cache and take advantage of the content that was in there to generate new services within the network. The first company that came to us was Real Networks and said, streaming media needs to be stored at the edge. It needs to be in big caches, but nobody's got big enough and fast enough caches to handle the dense traffic of streaming media. We want to write the new G2 server to run on top of your caches that are deployed out there. And that's exactly what's happened. Today we have over 15 companies that have written their software to run on top of the cache. I learned a very interesting lesson in the early 80s because I was in a front row seat for the PC industry and its whole evolution. And the lesson that you walk away from that whole experience is he who brings the most software wins. And that's exactly what we're doing with this. We are bringing as much software to bear on this architecture as we can. The other thing I will tell you is that we are also investing in startup companies that are developing software to run on top of the cache. Now, today, Inktomi as a company is not profitable at the bottom line, but the businesses of the directory and portal business and the business of network products is profitable. And the reason that we're not profitable is because of this next application, shopping. We made a forward investment. We decided over a year ago that we would enter a third marketplace, and that was the marketplace of e-commerce. Inktomi's technology is best suited when there is large data and high transaction rates against large data. I mean, we don't get even breathing hard until the database gets up above a terabyte in size. Now, to give you a perspective on that, the database guys today, Larry Ellison would do handsprings down the Golden Gate Bridge if he could tell you he had a 200 gigabyte database deployed. And we start at terabytes and go up. Shopping is huge data. To do this right, you have to have lots of data in these shopping engines to take care of it. Now here's what we're doing. We are building fundamentally the commerce dial tone for the internet. So as you want to do this, if you want shopping, we first started with the general portals. So the new Disney Go network, their shopping engine is provided by Inktomi. It's running in our data center, it's our application. The same thing with LookSmart, the same thing with i1. i1, by the way, is CVS's new portal. They are doing a magnificent job. They are driving huge traffic to that site. They really understand what they're doing. And ShopNow is a good example. The other thing is that the vertical portals are now coming online. When I talked about brand, a good example is American Express. They understand the power of all their cardholders. And they have created their own portal site, and they've created a site where shopping is one of the dominant features of that. In fact, they've been so smart as to say all of those American Express points, for those of you that have got a card, where you normally could only buy with those what was in their catalog, you now, anything that's in the shopping engine can use those points. There are over 4 million SKUs in Inktomi shopping engine today. The other thing that's important is set-top and appliances are going to become very important to access internet. You're going to see more about wireless, and you're going to see more about handheld devices. So we have written and interfaced with the software to do that. And then finally, the client apps become important if you look at a company like desktop.com. Our merchants that are in this database that you can go use as shopping are the big merchants. They're not mom and pop on the corner. They're everything from Barnes & Noble to CDW, which is one of the huge computer suppliers today, to J.Crew, to REI, and most recent company that went public yesterday, Buy.com. This is what CVS had to say about the shopping engine and the benefit that they're deriving from it. This was our first Christmas season with this deployed. We have over 37 portals today that have deployed the Inktomi shopping engine. Now, to give you an idea what that perspective is, it took us 2 years to get 10 search engine partners. It took us 6 months to get 37 portals running the shopping engine. We had over 76 million unique shoppers go through the shopping engine this last Christmas season. And this was the first season it was in the market. Here's our fundamental revenue model. This is what the street has liked about us, is we've got 2 streams of revenue. One is on the portal services, the search engine, the directory engine, and the shopping engine. That is a per transaction model. We sign 2 to 3 year contracts. They have minimums in them, but we charge per transaction. Shopping is a little bit different than search and directory. Shopping, we take a % of every sale that occurs. We charge for page views, and we charge a license fee. So that's a very robust model. The network product side, the network cache, and the content distribution side is very much like an enterprise license business. We charge per CPU a license. List price is $24,000. We charge 25% per annum of the license fee for maintenance and subscription upgrade. And then on top of that, we offer professional services. The other thing that we're doing is our last round of finance, we raised about $270 million. We put $75 million off to the side. We are making investments in new technologies. One of the things you worry about if you're a software company is your very success is what kills your innovation. Your installed base demands that your engineering efforts be devoted more and more to feature improvement, function improvement, and performance. And you don't get to spend as much time in innovation. By investing in new companies, we are drawing all types of innovation towards us. We are now seeing over 100 business plans a month coming to us from software companies that want to write software to run with our architecture. That's obviously helping the sale of our products. These are just examples of companies that we have invested in. I will tell you that the first $30 million we invested, and we started that in October of last year, is today worth over $380 million in publicly traded securities. Now, that was not the intent of doing this. That just happens to be, if you will, some of the exhaust byproduct that we're getting from it. This is what the revenue growth of all of this looks like. This company performs very well, but I think what's more important, this is a statement about how good management is. This is the ability to scale a company very rapidly in a very predictable fashion. We have never disappointed the street with what we were going to do. I have a very senior management team. Most of my direct reports have 15 to 25 years in the job that they're in from other companies. They come from companies like Intel, they come from Tandem, they come from Oracle, they've come out of Sun. So we have a very experienced management team to go with this. Profit, we have said we will clearly deliver profitable quarters in calendar year 2000 and in our fiscal year 2000, which ends September 30th. So we are close to being there right now. So if we go back and look at the industry again, here's what we're going to do against this architecture. We plan to dominate those two layers. We are going to be moving forward on all fronts, internationally as well as technology, to shore up and own those two layers. We'll do it through organic development. We have made 3 acquisitions already. We will continue to make acquisitions. You should look to see our acquisitions in the future to be larger, just like our quarters are, and that we will continue to move into the international markets in a big way. We already have a major presence throughout Europe and Asia, and we are moving into mainland China. So at the end of the day, here's what you're going to see happen at Inktomi. We will basically move into that space and fill it completely. And we are in good position. We own 40% of one layer and 45% of the other. And we think we can continue to capture the new players. That's us.